Hello YouTube, it's Ryan here with Hobbies and Man. Once again, and today we're going to be doing another anime review. Today we're going to be looking at Bastard Part 2, which is episodes 14 through 24, which are only 10 episodes. Although I guess, thinking about it, I guess it makes sense that they split it the way they did, because at the end of episode 13, there was a great, cutoff point. So it makes sense that they did it that way. The director here was Iraharu Osaki. The studio is Litten Films. This is distributed through Netflix. The demographic is Shonen Seinen because the original manga was originally published in Weekly Shonen Jump, but then moved to the Seinen magazine after it turned out to be a lot raunchier than they were really wanting it to be for the Shonen Jump magazine. It's very similar to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where the violence was a little bit too much for the editors at the time, and so they moved it to the adult magazine. So yeah, the genres here are dark fantasy, post-apocalyptic, and sword and sorcery. Adaptations wise, this is a new adaptation of the original manga. Can't remember when it published, but it is old. It is not exactly contemporary with like Saint Seiya and Fist of the North Star, but it is a little bit after that. I think right before Dragon Ball. I think that's when it's around, and it's also still technically ongoing, but it has been on hiatus for a long time, and I don't know if it's going to come back anytime soon. And the premise here is that in this second half of the story, Dark Schneider has died, and the evil god Anthrax will wake up soon, as the Dark Rebel Army is actually managing to acquire all of the seals necessary to undo the bindings on Anthrax. And most of this second half of the season actually deals with the battle against the Second Army, which is Abigail's Army of Decay. So, lots of funky-ass weird shit happening, and it's really, really fun. So, yeah. The plotline basically is, the fallout after the death of Dark Schneider, and we get to see that something is happening to his body. It keeps glowing gold and shrinking and growing from Lucien Renren's body to Dark Schneider's body. And as things get worse, after Gaara and Arshasne are battling the Lynch, which is an evil undead warrior, which is going really badly for them, Dark Schneider is reborn or resuscitates in the nick of time to help them battle this demon and eventually battle the rest of the evil forces that are coming their way. So, yeah, they battle the Lynch, and actually Dark Schneider manages to kill it relatively easy. And then, Arshasne and Gaara fight the Lynch and beat it eventually, but Dark Schneider has to be reborn, then helps them battle with Vivian, which is a Cyclops, an undead Cyclops, and then they continue to battle a bunch of other guys as Anthrax's awakening grows nearer, right? And then they have to start to battle with a lot more powerful enemies. So the first major enemy that they really battle with is the Lich. The Eddie, which is an undead character, and they actually are a very powerful character who carries the Satan Ring, which is the last part of the 3-item set of the demon weapons or something like that. And there's this big battle between Lich and Dark Schneider, which is actually really awesome, and I think that this was probably the best battle in this part of the season. Yoko eventually ends up meeting Abigail because Abigail has snuck into the Metallicana castle to try to take these weapons back, and Arshasne goes to save her because she knows something is wrong. So, then they get the explanation of how the seals work and what they are, and we basically learn that they're items that have a specific life force to them, and the fourth seal, the last seal, is actually embedded into the abdomen, and I think it's technically the womb of Princess Sheila of Metallicana, which is pretty wild. She ends up basically having horrible period pains and cramps during the last couple episodes of the season. So then the battle begins with Abigail versus Archesnay, that then evolves into a battle including all of the forces that are at Metallicana, because Abigail basically can create armies of the dead, and so it's a pretty difficult process. And it actually ends up also being a bit of a mecha battle between Dark Schneider and Abigail, because he manages to combine all three of the demon weapons and creates this Gundam, and he also merges with this Gundam, so he ends up being an upside down head on this Gundam's body. And the only real issues I had with this season actually take place in this part of the story, because the battle with Abigail takes too long. It's really, really drawn out, and the problem isn't necessarily that it's just a long time. It's just that they beat him like 5 times, and each time he like magically survives and continues to battle them, and it's just really annoying after like the 3rd time. It's like, bro, you should be dead. Just die already. We know that Dark Schneider is gonna beat your ass. Just please move on so that we can get to the next story point. And it takes like 5 episodes for this battle, and it ends up being, less epic the more time it goes on, because it just continues to end and then continue back up again, and it does get a little bit annoying over time, but it just takes a little bit too long, and that's really all there is to it. It actually ends really satisfyingly after the final defeat that took a little bit too long, but eventually it does end up with a very nice, interesting cliffhanger in the land of the samurai at the end of the episode, and it's really, really good stuff. I actually really liked it. I'm definitely looking forward to the next season, and I think that this season, or this part of the season, is significantly worse than the first part, because a lot of the jokes are getting old, but also because of that big drawn out fight with Abigail. If I remember correctly, there's also new scenes added to this part of the story that were not in the original manga, and that's probably to draw it out, but it's also maybe because they needed to figure out how to get to 24 episodes, and so they decided to reuse this non-defeat kind of plot point over and over again in order to get to the point that they needed to get to. So it is a bit of a downer that it's not as good in the second half of the anime, but the first half was really, really strong, and overall the whole 24 episode season is still pretty good, because it's not really that big of a deal when you look at the whole thing, overall. So yeah, characters wise, there's really no one new. There's 3 little different bad guys that show up, but they get defeated immediately after they're introduced, so they're really not really important. The only cool bad guy character that we get introduced to this time that also died but was still cool is the Eddie the Lich, or Lich the Eddie, because it's still a very cool character. I like him overall. And Abigail becomes a very important character because he is the bad guy of this first season. He is the major bad guy, right? Because if we remember from the first couple episodes, there's 4 divine kings, and Gaara and Archesnay have already been defeated and joined forces with Dark Schneider, so Abigail and Kalsu are the only 2 left over. Abigail becomes the major antagonist for the rest of season 1, and Kalsu and the leaders of the first army are going to be the bad guys for the next section of the story, probably. I'm guessing, because that just makes sense logically based on how they were set up. So yeah, in terms of world building, we don't get too much, but we do learn that the magic of the ancients kind of probably meant advanced science, and we also learn that the magic that they use currently also has a lot of scientific basis to it, and so wizards are basically just really advanced mathematicians, and I think that's really cool, because there's this moment where Dark Schneider uses a spell that creates a black hole, and then it creates a sphere and then emulates things by burning up the sphere really, really fast, and then he starts to explain it, and it's a very scientific explanation. Basically, he superheats a thing, he creates a vacuum in space, and then uses gas or something to make it explode, and it feels scientific. It might just be technobabble, but the point is that it does have a realistic basis. It's not just arcane magic, right? Which is cool. So yeah, other than that, there really isn't too much going on. We do get to see Arshasne use a few different new spells, which are all really cool thunder spells, and I like that a lot. It was really fun. In terms of animation, it is the same animation as before. It is still really great and fluid and enjoyable. I do think I can notice the CGI bits a little bit more this time, but it is still very well made. I really, really like how this anime looks. And in terms of fan service, I do think that there's a little bit less fan service than before because there is so much more focus on the battles, but the fan service that does exist is a lot raunchier than before. I mean, Dark Schneider ends up fondling Arshasne a lot during this second half of the season, and it's not really all that great. It is kind of over the top, like significantly bad over the top, but it happens in lulls in the story points and or during exposition, and so it does feels like a Game of Thrones sexposition kind of thing, and not necessarily just like, hey, let's stop the plot line so we can have some fan service and then move on from there. So I don't know. I think they're doing it in a good way, but they're still like ramping it up to like way too high in terms of the horny scale, and I think they really should tamp it down a little bit so that it doesn't feel so egregious and ridiculous, because this story is already ridiculous as it is. So it's not like it's out of place. It's just a lot, and it does get a little bit concerning the more you watch it, right? So it is what it is. In terms of a rating, this is a 3.5 out of 5, compared to I think what I gave the first part of the season was a 5 out of 5. So I do think that it actually ends up being about a 4 out of 5 overall. The whole 24 episode season, 2-core season, is about a 4 out of 5 in terms of enjoyment. I would definitely watch it again, and I had a lot of fun with it. I watched it in the English version, in the English dub, because I didn't really feel like reading subtitles when I was watching it. And overall, I found the dub to be really good and really engaging, and it was pretty good. It was also really campy, so I think that a lot of the voice actors had a lot of fun doing it, and I hope so, because a lot of those female voice actors had to say some really weird things. So yeah, overall, really good stuff. I did enjoy Bastard holistically. I do think the second half of the first season was a bit worse than the first half, and it is mostly just because the Abigail fight went on a little too long, like one episode too long. That it really did not have to do that. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Bastard Part 2 of Season 1. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.